All right, so let's go ahead and get some explanation, reaction concerning what transpired yesterday about the president's speech. Markwe. See her soon, so I better still.
It's a rumble. Rumble on the rocks.
Well, don't worry. It's at least you've seen those two gentlemen who are on standby to shed some light and at least go deeper into what that speech meant, especially that strong team bit. I'd like to hear much later. Okay, we can go to Mark right now.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. I'm not clear what you saw on TV. I don't know if they're my guests in the studio, but I definitely have with me here two gentlemen who are going to shed a little more light on what the president said yesterday. One of them is one of the president's men. He's Garba Shehu, Senior Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity. Welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
And we also have with us Mr. Yabagi Sani, who's the National Chairman, Action Democratic Party. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily as well.
Thank you very much.
Is it still in order to say Happy Democracy Day to you? Yeah. Or should we be saying that in arrears? We're still in the season of democracy, aren't we?
Exactly.
So let me start with you, Mr. Yabagi Sani. We heard the president's speech there. It was a speech we had waited for since May 29. It would seem it was an attempt to merge together an inaugural address and also a first Democracy Day speech, you know, after it has been moved from May 29 to June 12. How did the speech resonate with you?
Well, I think it was a landmark achievement in terms of what this administration has done so far by taking the bull by the horns. What I mean is that the military from 1999, if you like.
Are you talking about the day now or the speech?
The day.
Okay.
It's Democracy Day, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
We're talking about the build-up to democracy.
I was talking about the president's speech.
Yes, the speech was all about how the administration is going to move the economy forward, you know, of course, using democratic environment, which we are in now. And I'm trying to trace the history of the day itself when the speech was made, the historical importance of the day, and what it means to an average Nigerian, what it means to the growth of democracy in Nigeria. That's what I'm talking about. Because it's about democracy,
yes.
You know, the speech itself.
We might not have time to trace the historical background. I mean, I'm sure a lot of that was done yesterday.
Yes.
But looking at, you know, because a lot of people were going to be holding on to the president's speech.
Yes.
First and foremost, I want to think that you supported the president's move when he moved Democracy Day from May 29 to June 12. Did you?
For one reason, which I want to mention.
By all means, go ahead.
The reason is that this is the first time the military, as an establishment, is coming out to apologize to Nigerians that we made a mistake. And we want to put it on record that every 12th June every 12th June of the year, we want Nigerians to know that, yes, we made a mistake, but we are now ready to be democratic institution builders. That's my take from that, the declaration of 12th June as Democracy Day, to tell us that, yes, we have made a mistake, we are now apologizing, we are now part and parcel of the builders of democracy in Nigeria, the most populous nation in the world, the pride of the black race in the world, the biggest economy in the African continent. So I believe that what Mr. President did yesterday, declaring that day as Democracy Day and telling us that now we are going to move the economy out of the woods. We are going to tackle the issue of security. We are going to make sure Nigerians begin to feel the impact of what democracy is all about, dividends of democracy. He mentioned about 100 million Nigerians in 10 years. I think Nigeria has a capacity to move Nigerians more than that out of poverty, because we have the capacity. We have like he also recognized the fact that Nigeria has the resources, we have the human capital, we have the size, we have everything that Indonesia he mentioned, China he mentioned. What we have is even more of...
and he mentioned the fact that those two countries were autocracies. I mean, they moved out of poverty when they were autocracies, and India was a democracy,
India
and
used democracy.
is still a democracy. And
exactly,
says,
and
we
it
can
is
do
possible.
it.
Nigeria can do it. Yes, Nigeria can do it because Nigeria is a nation that is a peaceful, resilient, nation. In the sense that, you see, what we have in this country is people that have been recognized as leaders, you know, in their own rights. And that has been shown all over the world. Wherever Nigeria is, we're either number one or a very good number two. So, like India, which is the largest democracy in the world, Nigeria is also the largest democracy in the continent of Africa. And we can do it. We can begin. That's why I'm telling you that what is instructive about the declaration of 12 June is that the military as an establishment are now ready to take a back seat. Because what we have been having all along is not democratic government. We're having civil rule. Mr. President is telling us that come 2023, we are going to have a full-fledged civilian administration. We are going to have an economy that can support this.
Don't we have a civilian administration?
No, it's a civil rule. we are supposed to have a government. That's all like democratic government. We haven't had a democratic government yet.
Okay. I don't know. You might explain a little more what you mean by that much later in the program. But yes. I want to ask you, did that speech inspire you?
It inspires me in the sense that, one, like I said, and
I think
the issue is it inspires because now the president said that he recognized the fact that we need to rebuild Nigerian economy.
Yes.
But my surprise is that is it today, after 4 years, that Nigeria will recognize the fact that the president will recognize the fact that we need to rebuild Nigeria? What has he been doing in the last 4 years? No rebuilding. Or has he been assessing? Has he been analyzing? Be a former head of state before, being a key player in the both political and economic aspect of building this country. It is now that he wants to call us to come and rebuild Nigeria. 4 years down the line, he wasn't rebuilding Nigeria.
Okay.
So that's what
I'm sure Mr. Sani, Mr. Shehu, beg your pardon, Mr. Garba Shehu, what am I about to mix you up with Mr. Shehu, Sani? We'll definitely have a response to that. Alhaji, the jury is still out as to the success of the president's, let's say, attempt to merge an inaugural address and also a Democracy Day address together. Some people are saying he missed an opportunity there. How would you respond? Because they say it didn't quite inspire them. They said he dwelt more on the past. I could refer you to one point. I've seen, you know, some analysis already out on the president's speech already. How would you respond to those people, considering first how long the president's speech was? One, it's one of the longest he's ever delivered, and two, the significance of the day as well. Do you think that, as one of the president's men, he was able to achieve significantly postponing that address from May 29 to June 12?
Well, you put in so much in this.
I don't know why I'm doing that.
But I thought that it is reasonable to allow the president to put together these major addresses, not doing one, and then he comes back to the nation, back on the airwaves, you know, 10, 11 days after. Now that it has been delivered, I think it is better we dwell on the content and whether it has achieved what the president himself set out to do. Now, it is important that past wrongs are righted. And President knew even before he signed the law declaring June 12 as holiday, that it is not every Nigerian that would be happy with that. Because, you know, June 12 was injustice to Nigeria, to the winners of that election. But it brought benefit to some people.
Let me digress a little with one question. Has the president faced any resistance in any quarters or any untoward comment as a result of moving Democracy Day from May 29 to June 12?
It's already out there. And don't forget that.
I haven't seen any.
No.
Can you tell us more clearly?
In fact,
if he has.
There is a large body of beneficiaries, you know, of that annulment. And among them were those who instituted May 29 as the nation's Democracy Day. Now, what the president has done is that he has demolished the moral, political, and philosophical basis on the basis of which not only was June 12 May 29 declared as National Democracy Day, the basis upon which they assumed power. Because this idea of the thing is, one, it was sort of rotatory, compensatory, you know, to aggrieved parts of the country so that the country reconciled. And it is very clear from what has happened over these years that genuine reconciliation hadn't been achieved. That those measures that were taken were half measures because they had left out the most critical elements, the most aggrieved people. In fact, the major character, MKO Abiola himself, had been left out completely. And all of the people who supported him, people who had not recognized it. The naming of the stadium in Abuja after MKO. You know that there was a Senate resolution going back some years ago, and it was snubbed. A sitting government ignored it. So I'm saying that a whole lot of opportunities had emerged from the annulment, and they had gained from all of it, and obviously then what the president has done is to say look, you are not justified in getting all of the favors and the benefits you got arising from that.
Was that captured in it? Was that an attempt to? Did he try to capture that in his speech?
It doesn't have to be said in words.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm saying is that it is clear from all of the things that had happened.
Okay. Now let's focus a little more on the speech now. I was trying to bring you to the speech as well. Some people believe that this speech didn't quite succeed in merging an inaugural address with the significance of the day. How would you respond to those people?
I would say that they probably need to go back and look at that speech. You know that all of it ran for 20-25 minutes. So it was adequate for the purpose. And the president did address issues of democracy because, he dwelled on matters of free and fair elections and on his support for the National Electoral Commission and the freedom he gave them to conduct elections that are credible. So that's essentially, meat for a democracy there. For a leader who had taken power in office, I think he needed, most importantly, to raise the aspirations of Nigerians. We forget very often.
Did he do that successfully?
Because he did.
He talked about Nigeria. He said, thus far, we Nigerians can be proud of our history since independence. And he talks a lot about what Nigeria used to be in the past, why Nigerians need to be proud of their country, the roles that we have played as an economic bloc in West Africa, the roles we have played in the liberation of other countries. He talked about also what he did in the first 4 years. And I think the jury is still out on that. He said only the partisan. I'm trying to see, I think it's point number 28 now. He says, none but the most partisan will dispute that in the last 4 years, we have made solid progress in addressing these challenges. Of course, the challenges he listed in number 27, which he talked about security, economy, and fighting corruption. However, he goes on to talk about the fact that security challenges remain. And for a number of people, they'll say, how can you in one breath accuse people of being partisan if they say they haven't seen what you've done in the area of security, and at the same time, acknowledge that these security challenges still remain, acknowledge that banditry is on the rise, kidnapping is also on the rise, and point to reasons why those things are on the rise.
Well, on matters of security, the president did say that all of the challenges that we now face had been with us all of the time. But the difference that 2015 had made to now is that the political will is now in place to deal decisively with the challenges as they arise. And then he went on to talk about how Boko Haram no longer holds territory, how they are now on the defensive because they no longer can mount those major attacks and take territory and all of that. So it depends on what people are fishing for. But essentially, I think that the president has achieved what he set out to do. And this is, as I said, raise aspirations of Nigerians, because we often tend to forget how great this country is. And we, not others from outside, we are the ones who diminish who we are and the status of our own country. All of the countries he mentioned in South Africa, you just read part of the speech. And it is true, they probably wouldn't have been free countries were it not for the exertions of not only the Nigerian government, but the Nigerian people. Because, you know, don't forget, at some point, Nigerians were asked to pay a percentage of their monthly take-home pay in order that our people, our black brothers in Southern Africa were liberated. West Africa, look at all of the difference we have made, Lake Chad Basin and all of that. So it's a greatly blessed country. And the president's wish is, okay, we hope that we will be, that the potentials of our country be fully realized. And this is the aspiration of his administration.
Mr. Yabagi, did they hit those notes for you? I mean, yes, we've talked about the president laying out his plan to lift 100 million people out of poverty. I think he goes on to talk about how he intends to do that through agriculture and industrial output. He's talked about even the manufacturing purchasing managers index. He says it's risen for 26 consecutive months since March 2017, indicating continuous growth and expansion in our manufacturing sector. He talked about the ports. It still takes too long for goods to clear at our seaports, and the roads leading to them are congested. It still takes too long for routine and regulatory approvals to be secured. These issues affect our productivity, and we are committed to addressing them permanently. How confident are you, given what you have seen in the last 4 years, that indeed this is a trajectory which the president is facing and that they can be successfully surmounted, the challenges that we're facing in those areas?
Well, if I'm to use last 4 years,
yes.
It's an anticlimax as far as I'm concerned, because there's nothing inspiring in the last 4 years in this administration for me to believe what the president is saying. I would say everything Mr. President has said, like you have repeated.
Are you being
rhetoric?
Yeah, but are you being? Will you be? I mean, I know that you're chairman of another political party and you did try to run for president, but will you be really objective when you say that there was nothing inspiring in the last 4 years? Because not even the action taken to move May 29 to June 12.
Mr. President was sounding like an activist, you know, telling us what is happening in the country and which the government has done nothing. I want Mr. President to come and tell me that I'm sacking my service chiefs because they have failed. I'm signing the electoral bill into law because it has given us the worst elections that you can ever think in this country. The laws we had before. I was expecting Mr. President to say that I've engaged, you know, effectively with the 21st. This 21st economy has been engaged effectively with the outside world. Nigeria economy is a big player in any way you look at it. We are not engaged with other economies. We are busy borrowing loans from countries that 22 years were poorer than us, like China and what have you. And then what has it that Mr. President has said that is inspiring in terms of an average Nigerian? It's the rhetoric. I would move 100 million people out of poverty in 10 years. Yeah, you have only 4 years.
Well, what about the ease of doing business? I mean, which was one area when I talked about regulatory.
What has happened? Regulatory agencies are controlled by the government. What has happened in the last 4 years? Why haven't we seen any reform in the regulatory agencies? Why have we not?
The ease of doing business, we've moved up in the reports, haven't we? We are now rated pretty highly in the ease of doing business.
And it is ease of doing business would have mean that we have foreign investment that has come into this country, which has increased from what it used to be. It has gone down instead. If ease of business was something that it wasn't just a statement you want to make. You want to say that ease of business, you know, we have achieved ease of business. The cost of doing business in Nigeria has been reduced. You know, you don't have to go through bureaucracy. But today, where are even those regulatory agencies? You know, they're as weak as you can ever think, and the government is only as strong as the regulatory agencies. That's why you have corruption. That's why you have insecurity. The customs, what are they doing? How are they protecting our borders? Why is it that the Republic is becoming a bigger nation than Nigeria in terms of importation of rice and things like that? What is the regulatory agency I'm talking about?
We have stopped importing rice, Mr. Yabagi, Sani.
Pardon me?
We have stopped importing rice.
Yes, by pronouncement. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I say rhetorics are so full of...
The agricultural sector, I mean, one of the things that we're now doing is producing rice that we consume here in Nigeria.
Do you know how much rice we consume in this country? About over 6 million tons of rice. What we produce is less than 3 million.
Well,
so
I do not have the figures. So we have been told that
you don't have. So, but what I'm telling you is that the speech, like I said, the only instructive thing I'm taking away from that speech is the fact that the military as institution has come to apologize to Nigerians that we made a mistake. We are now going to entrench democracy. But Mr. President has not really inspired me when it comes to the issue of economy. when it comes to issue of security, because I'm taking Mr. President on his 3-point agenda, which is insecurity that he's going to fight, and everybody believes that Mr. President is personified. I mean, it's a personification of somebody that can fight this security issue, you know, to its knees. But that hasn't happened. What is happening with these service chiefs? You know, for God's sake, the government of the business of government of running government of this country, it does not stop or begin with Mr. President alone.
You've talked about security chiefs. I mean,
Yes.
the president is not saying that reason. What he's saying here, I'm going to read point 46 to you. He says the disturbing increase in rate of kidnapping, banditry, and other criminal activities can be attributed to the decades of neglect and corruption in social investment, infrastructure development, education, and healthcare. This issue is further compounded by the impact of our changing climate and ecology. The ECOWAS and Sahel regions, starting from Chad all the way to Mali, are also experiencing adverse impacts of drought and desertification. Now, these are climatic issues, I mean, environmental
External
issues.
factors.
Now, he says these issues are regional and not unique to Nigeria alone.
Yeah.
The problems call for increased regional and international cooperation in developing a sustainable solution. He's talked about him being chairman of ECOWAS, and I'll be hosting a regional security summit of heads of state in the Sahel to develop a joint strategy to continue our efforts in addressing these issues. So, I mean, he's finding the root of the problem and also telling you what he intends to do in the next 4 years.
Yes.
Isn't that answering your question in terms of security?
Rhetoric, because there are key issues
How
that
is
will
that
have
rhetoric?
inspired.
How is that rhetoric?
Because
I mean, if he's telling you that this is what is causing insecurity, and this is what I intend to do because this is a regional problem, how is that so rhetoric?
Insecurity is the major fundamental issue that we are battling with in this country. Our economy can never get anywhere if you don't fight this insecurity thing. The issue of corruption I'm talking about, if you don't fight insecurity, you can get nowhere with it. So the point I'm making is that you have managers running your affairs who are not making any returns to you. They are making losses year in, year out. As Mr. President was giving that speech, we had herdsmen, Boko Haram, overrunning, you know, the territories of this country. People are being killed, on the streets of this country. Mr. President should come and tell us that my managers have failed, which are service chiefs. I'm changing them, or I have sacked them. That would have inspired a lot of Nigerians. That would have shown us that Mr. President has now taken the seat of fighting, you know, this war, because he is qualified, he is competent, he is personified as the man that can fight this scourge of insecurity. And it has the base, it has the bottom of everything we are talking about. Our economy is not making any headway because the insecurity is porous, you know. Perhaps because you have held these people on their seat for too long, that's why the rank and file is not inspired, you know, to fight, you know, all these things. So the point I'm making is that Mr. President made a speech, yes, but those speech, you know, there's nothing. I will take 100 million. I will fight this. No.
Okay. Let me ask Mr. Garba Shehu how he responds to that. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, I will say just 2 things. One, I think that my older brother, Engineer Yabagi, is either didn't listen to that speech. He probably was asleep throughout that. It was a national holiday, so we don't blame him for taking time off. Or that he is still in the mode of candidacy of his political party. And he's talking about lack of democracy and civilian rules. It's because of attitude of political leaders, and I'm sorry, personified by himself, who, because they are powerful men, they can set up political party, own the political party, be presidential candidate, and say whatever they want. So that's not democracy. If you don't share power, you don't allow institutions to grow. So that's just part of the story. But to say the president has achieved nothing.
Mr. Sani, I'm going to ask you to please hold yourself.
But I don't have INEC.
I'm going to ask you to please hold yourself.
I don't have the paraphernalia of the
we have to end a part of
I can only be Mr. Presidential candidate, but I cannot, you know, make myself to win like the equipment has made. He used the INEC, he used the paraphernalia of office, he used the military personnel.
We have to take a moment. When we come back, we will turn our attention to the economic part of this particular speech, and we'll have a new guest. At this point, Mr. Yabagi Sani, I will have to say thank you for coming on SunriseDaily. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on what you make of the president's speech. He's the national chairman of the Action Democratic Party. SunriseDaily continues in a moment. Please stay with us.